Gotcha.
Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Thegameconomist, and today we'll be taking a look at the Profaned Ultra Greatsword. I'll never understand why From decided to call some of the Ultra Greatswords just Greatswords. It's very confusing, but this is an Ultra Greatsword. So, the Profaned Ultra Greatsword is a pure physical weapon. It has a unique R2 that you can charge all the way, at which point it will deal 50 more fire damage. However, nobody in PvP gets hit by a fully charged R2, so you're mostly going to be using this, that fully charged R2, you're mostly going to be using it in PvE. Now for the build, you'll notice I didn't take strength to 40, that's because the scaling's not very good. It's okay, but I think that you can honestly put those points elsewhere, and that's what I did. I did take dexterity all the way to 40 because that was fine. You'll notice I have Tears of Denial on the build. Since this is a physical build, you'll notice I have to spend extra points getting to Tears of Denial, getting to Filianor Chime right. If this was a dark build, I wouldn't have to do that. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about, the weapon can self-buff for a pretty decent amount of damage. However, the self-buff requires you to use the Stomp and then the R2. At that point, you'll be buffed. If you recall, the Lorian's Ultra Greatsword, all you have to do is Stomp, so that one's very easy to rebuff. With this one, since you have to use the R2 as well, it's very, I want to call it risky to rebuff. Your opponent could easily backstab you at the end of the move, costs a lot of stamina, or you could just get punished like regular, right? They can just use an R1 punish on you. So you're not really going to be rebuffing this weapon in the middle of the fight. For the moveset, this Profaned Ultra Greatsword really doesn't have a unique moveset. It's very straightforward. It has the horizontal two-handed R1 that only has 17 spaces for range, which is really bad because it means you're going to be punished by most of the fast light weapons, right? If you try to use your R1 combo and you miss, you're very punished. If you use a single R1, I think they can punish you if they're very, very good, like if they use a running attack. And it's not, it's not hard to imagine them doing that pretty consistently because they can get pretty close to you because you only have 17 spaces on your R1. It's bad. You can try to roll catch with the R1, but you basically have to begin the windup the moment they press the roll button, if not a little earlier than that. So it's pretty hard to roll catch with the R1. A lot of people talk about how good the rolling attack is when you're talking about this archetype of rolling attack. It's the thrust rolling attack. I'm not a fan of it. If you guys don't believe my credibility, what have I, I've been in some ladder matches. I've been using Ultra Greatswords for a while. I've been playing the game for a while. Everybody talks praise about the rolling attack on Ultra Greatswords. It's not that good, guys. If you've fought and used a lot of Ultra Greatswords, done both of those things, you realize anytime they roll, that roll can be considered a wind-up for the rolling attack. So if your opponent is using an Ultra Greatsword and he's rolling, just space him, just get away from him or roll, and he'll never hit you with that rolling attack. You're much better off trying to use the running attack, which you can unlock and hit a strafing opponent that way, or the R2, which I think is probably the most effective method with an Ultra Greatsword, is using the R2. Your opponent is trying to react to an R1, and the R1 requires you to just hit B as soon as you see the windup. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why the R2s are so confusing for your opponent, because they're used to panic rolling the R1. Well, they have to delay their roll for the R2, and then even if they delay for the R2, it's not impossible for them to miss. It's just unlikely that they'll miss the roll if they've managed to get to the point where they're delaying the roll for the R2. But yeah, I think that in terms of Ultra Greatswords, R2s are where you should be living. I think it's the best move on any Ultra Greatsword. The Stomp as well is okay, especially if you're fighting another poise weapon. The Stomp can actually lead into a knockup if you use the weapon R2, and that means you also get to keep your buff. So if you're fighting another poise weapon, another ultra weapon, I would take a very serious look at using the Stomp R2. Really has a big bonus if you can pull it off. Other than that, there's not a lot to say about this weapon. It's very straightforward. I thought it felt very similar to all of the Ultra Greatswords in the game. Personally, I can't see why you would use this over the Zweihander or the Astora Ultra Greatsword, because they're very similar to the Profaned Ultra Greatsword, except better. Just the fact that you can infuse them makes them better, because they're going to be able to deal chip damage to shields like the Black Knight shield, and they're lighter. You're going to be able to have better, more efficient builds on them. So Profaned Ultra Greatsword's probably going to go into D tier along with many of the Ultra Great Hammers. Kind of sucks, but that's just how it is. Alright, well, I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.